What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. And here we are, broadcasting from the Blue Wire studios in Las Vegas in the Wynn Hotel. Joined today by Daniel Starkand, Ron Gutterman. Guys, I'm excited because the postseason is upon us, and we're here today to talk position players on the postseason roster. And so we'll just jump right in. I think this is an interesting conversation for the Dodgers. They've got one too many guys, as we're going to talk about. So let me start with locks, and then we'll talk a little bit about the decisions that Andrew Friedman and Dave Roberts have to make. I've got Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Gavin Lux, Trey Turner, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Trace Thompson as locks for the starting lineup. And then I've got Austin Barnes off the bench as a lock. So let me pause real quick and ask you this question. Daniel, I'll start with you. I've got Cody Bellinger as the everyday center fielder, Trace Thompson the everyday left fielder. Do you agree with that?
I do, and I feel like that's kind of changed a lot over the last month or so. But Cody's been swinging the bat well as of late. We all know, his defense, how great it's been. Trace, I feel like he's earned that spot. I know his September wasn't quite as good as he was before, but I still think he's kind of a boom or bust type of guy. But hey, if he comes up with a couple big homers in the postseason, that's worth it at the bottom of your lineup. So I think I agree with that assessment that those guys are going to be playing. Maybe not every single game, but most of the games, that's going to be your left and center fielder.
Yeah, Ron, we've talked throughout the last couple of weeks about, is there a platoon in left field? Is there a platoon in center field? Trace Thompson, 800-plus OPS over the last month of the season. Cody Bellinger's got 9 or 10 hits in the last 5 or 6 games. For you, is there a platoon out there somewhere, or is this Trace as your everyday left fielder, Cody everyday in center field?
I think Cody is definitely the everyday center fielder. He's shown, struggles aside, he's shown that in October he can put it together, even when he hasn't been good the rest of the season.
I'm smiling because I was afraid you were going to say Beltober there, and I'm very proud of you for not saying that. Thank you.
I refuse Beltober as a nickname. Don't worry. But yeah, he's always shown himself to be that guy in October, even if he struggled the rest of the year. Trace Thompson, like Daniel said, I think he's earned that spot. If there's anyone with kind of the tightest leash, it's probably Trace Thompson. If you get, 2 games in to the divisional round and you see him struggling and you see, poor at-bats, poor discipline, that's probably when you start to throw a platoon in there just to get a different look. But right now, I think game 1, that's who you're starting, and that's who you're confident in starting because they've been that way all year.
Okay, so Andrew Friedman says they've got 13 position players that are going to be on the roster come the postseason. I just gave you 10. So now we've got 3 more spots, and I would say there are 4 realistic guys that we're talking about here. That's Chris Taylor, Joey Gallo, Hanser Alberto, Miguel Vargas. If one of you wants to get crazy and make a case for James Outman or Edwin Rios or even Kevin Pillar back from injury maybe, I'll let you do that. But I think with these 3 spots, what we need to acknowledge is we need at least one extra outfielder because we're at 3 currently, and probably someone who can ideally cover shortstop in an emergency. Unless you feel okay with Gavin Lux as your emergency shortstop, I wouldn't blame you. But aside from that, we've got flexibility with Justin Turner, Max Muncy, that kind of thing. I think everywhere else is covered. So, Daniel, let me give you the resumes for the 4 guys, Taylor, Gallo, Alberto, and Vargas, and you tell me who you like. So Chris Taylor, we'll start with him. Hasn't played since September 30th, so that's the wild card here with him. He did go 3 for 4 in that game, but unfortunately for him, hasn't played since. The postseason, 842 OPS in his career, 9 home runs, 62 games in the postseason, had a 1,200 OPS last season in the postseason. This season, however, slight regression from that. 677 OPS, just 10 home runs in 118 games, the second highest strikeout rate among guys with 400-plus at-bats. The last month, OPS of 608, so he's actually trending in the wrong direction. Next on the list, we got Joey Gallo. Only 4 career postseason plate appearances. He's 0 for 4 with a strikeout last year with the Yankees. Since coming to the Dodgers, 682 OPS, 7 home runs in 43 games. I mentioned Taylor has the second highest strikeout rate among guys with 400 plate appearances. Joey Gallo's first on that list. Since September 1st, 612 OPS for him. Hanser Alberto hasn't been in the postseason since 2015. He has a 614 OPS this season, a 253 on base percentage. I did not know it was that bad, but that's where he's at. The last month, again, going the wrong direction, 605 OPS. And last but not least, Miguel Vargas, a 439 OPS on the season in 49 plate appearances. But he did have a 915 OPS at AAA, 17 home runs in 113 games, excellent strikeout rate, excellent walk rate. So, Daniel, we've got Taylor, postseason success, really bad regular season. Gallo, Alberto, Vargas, no real postseason success, not successful in the regular season either. Which of those 3 guys do you think have the best chance of making this postseason roster?
I think there's two guys in Joey Gallo and Chris Taylor that are, I don't want to say locks, but they're going to make it. Chris Taylor, it kind of depends on his health. He's been dealing with the neck thing, but he says he's going to be good for the NLDS. I trust that experience a lot more than a one season sample size. And kind of what you were mentioning earlier with the versatility, like you need an emergency shortstop, you need someone that could play outfield, and Chris Taylor fills all those needs in one guy. Like if you wind up in a platoon situation with Trace Thompson, Cody Bellinger, or Gavin Lux, he's a guy who has historically, hit lefties and been that kind of platoon guy. So I think if Chris Taylor's healthy, he's going to be on the roster. I think Dave Roberts already said Joey Gallo is going to be on the roster, and I wouldn't expect to see Gallo in the starting lineup too much, but I think that's a nice lefty bat off the bench with some pop. So the final spot for me comes down to Vargas and Alberto. They would both kind of fill similar roles, I'd say, as right-handed bats off the bench. Alberto gives you a little more defense. He could kind of play all over the infield. Vargas, you don't love the defense. He hasn't really hit at the big league level, but he had a great AAA season. He specifically hit lefties really well at the AAA level, which if you look at that roster, like that's kind of what you need. Like if you want to start Cody Bellinger, if you want to start Trace Thompson, if you want to start Gavin Lux, that's fine. But in the 8th inning, if there's a tie game and they bring in their best lefty reliever, you might want to go to a pinch hitter there. And I think in that specific spot, I would rather have Vargas up at bat than Alberto. So that for me, I think Vargas gets that last spot for me. But other than that, I feel like the position players on the Dodgers are really strong. It's a really good group, and there's not a whole lot of question marks there. Definitely not as much as the pitching staff.
It's interesting to me, Ron, because we talk about it that there is some depth here. And yet I just read their season numbers. Like I didn't mention a guy with an OPS over 700. So it's interesting because Taylor is a name brand. Gallo's a name brand. Vargas has the prospect pedigree. So it's guys that you feel like you trust. And I'm not saying you're wrong in trusting them, but it's just interesting because if you looked at the numbers of some of these guys, are they all that much better from last year? I don't know. So he's got Alberto on the outside looking in. Do you agree with that, Ron? Is Alberto the guy that's the fourth man on a 3-man list?
I don't know that you can necessarily go wrong either way with putting Vargas or Alberto on the outside. I would probably put Vargas as that odd man out, just because he's hit well in the minors, and that's great. Like he's OPS over 900 in the minors is fantastic. It bodes well for him in the future, but it's not yet translated to major league success, and it's been like a sub 500 OPS is unhittable essentially, and he's also a worse defender. Yeah. So it's one of those things where you're trying to win the World Series right now. This team is right now. For the future, Vargas is a great piece to have in your farm system. He will eventually improve. I have no doubts there. Yeah. But right now, I don't know if I trust him on either side of the ball well enough to put him out there in a playoff game in really any situation. Yeah. So I think I would go with Alberto there, but you can't really go wrong either way. But I mean, you made compelling cases for all four, so it's really it's great choices.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Vargas for the same reasons that Daniel mentioned. I think the ability to hit lefties is the one weakness, I think you would say, maybe of the Dodgers as a whole, but specifically off of the bench. And so I just give me the wild card, give me the guy there. I mean, Alberto was brought in as a guy who was going to make contact, I think, as a reaction to what happened last year and so many guys swinging and missing in big spots, and them just wanting a guy who could put the ball in play. The problem is the strikeout rate for Alberto has gone way up. And so while it's still good, pretty good, it's not elite like it was. And so if you have an okay strikeout rate and a 250 on base percentage, it doesn't necessarily check those boxes. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, I agree with Daniel. I think this is better than the Billy McKinney, Sheldon Noisy, Steven Souza Jr. world of last year. But which of these four is on the outside? Of course, Chris Taylor's health. He hasn't played since September 30th, wasn't in the last couple games of the season. Could he potentially miss out because of injury? Lots to be determined. So, hey, we appreciate you joining us here on Dodger Heads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. As always, make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell. We'll see you next time. Go Dodgers.